everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Saturday Chat Live here on July 15th, 2023. Less than 2 weeks from my birthday. Thank you very much. Looking forward to that. So, it's been a while since we've seen each other. I do these monthly during the summer when school is out. There aren't that many people, learning stuff, at least as far as my channel goes, school and people are on vacations and stuff like that. So in the summer months, we do these once a month. And then when school starts back up in the fall, we'll probably go back to every 2 weeks. So it was good to see everybody here for July's edition. I hope you are all doing well. So if you are new to the stream, the way this works is that we go for 30 minutes or maybe longer, an hour sometimes, depending on how the conversation goes and what questions you might have and other topics we might want to discuss. This is completely unstructured. There's no real agenda or anything. I just want to make myself available to people if they want to converse or talk about what's going on in the news or whatever else. It's just making myself available now and then for you all who spend so much time on the channel, learning and stuff like that. So for me, it's a way to, to give back in a live setting. So that's kind of the way this works. If I don't get to every comment or question in the chat, please don't take that personally. I get to the ones that I think I can answer fully live here. And then sometimes people will reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatever else after the fact, and I can maybe answer a quick question. I don't do involved consulting here or on LinkedIn or anything like that. This is just sort of a social, casual type of conversation. And we'll see sort of where it goes. So I will remind everyone at the end, but our next live stream for August will be on Saturday, August 19th, 2023. So again, about a month from now, a little bit more than 4 weeks from now. That will be our August edition of Saturday Chat Live. So that will be the 19th of August. What else is going on? So I haven't made any YouTube videos in a while. That's not by accident. So obviously, like I said, during the summer months, traffic on the channel is very low because school is out. I am also using the past few months, the next few months going forward, really immersing myself and learning as much about AI technology as possible. So I'm not really a coder by training, but I'm trying to go back in and learn some Python or learn enough Python to know what I'm looking at and knowing what I'm doing. I'm also learning about things like, document loaders and vector embeddings and cosine similarity and all those things that are at a level of understanding that I'm interested in for large language models and stuff like that. So I'm really in like a learning mode right now. And this happens every now and then, right? Something comes along where you really have to just immerse yourself in a new technology or something else that's come along. So that's what I'm doing right now. So if you see periods of time on the channel where I don't make YouTube videos, that's normal. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. It's normal for me to take breaks for me to learn stuff. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. So like when I get off the live stream, I'll get my laptop and I'll head up to the coffee shop and do a couple hours work on lang chain and vector embeddings and learning more chat completion models and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing. That's kind of what I've been up to, and that's what I'll continue to do. So if you don't see videos for a while, don't worry. I don't quit YouTube or anything, but I do take breaks to learn things myself. I also have some outside projects that I'm working on related to AI, which are paid projects. So I kind of have to prioritize those as well. As I'm sure you can understand, everyone's got to pay the bills, including me. In October, I will be going to Switzerland. So if any of you happen to be located in Switzerland or know anyone that's located in Switzerland, I will be there in October, kind of on a vacation type of event, but I'm going to go see as many cool things as possible. I'm going to try to go up to the Large Hadron Collider if I can, which would be really amazing. So yeah, so it's a pretty cool trip coming up in October. I'll be in Switzerland, Geneva, in a few days, a weekend in Zurich. I never traveled before until last year, and now I'm just kind of going crazy. Okay, so one thing I do want to share with everybody is that one of our favorite Books has a new edition. Let me pull up my screen here. All right, there we go. So as many of you know, or probably fans of, the Introduction to Statistical Learning books have been around now. So the one in R has been around. There's now a second edition. But this ISL book with applications in Python was just released like a week or so ago. So of course these books are free to download. You can grab these. I'll put the link in the chat. So I'm also going to be looking at the ISL for Python book today. So when I leave the live stream, I'm going to go up and start looking through this book, looking for examples and stuff like that. I'm also going to ingest this book into the vector embedding database that I've made for open source statistical content as well. So I got to redo that now that it's out. So anyway, if you haven't checked out either one of these books, whether you work in R or Python, if you have never heard of these, which is rare nowadays, but if you have not heard of these two books, they are free and you can go download the PDFs and work through them. There's code obviously in them, and you can pick and choose. They're a bit more, I would say, they're a level above beginner. So you'll see a bit more, you'll see code of course, but you'll see more math notation in there and stuff like that. So if you're looking for something a little bit more advanced than like an introductory book to statistics with the software applications, these two books are fantastic. So, like the R one I have printed out. So this is the R version I printed out. So make sure you check those out if you're looking for any resource, okay? So I thought I would make everyone know that those are out and available. All right, let me hide this and get back to my face. If I can find my mouse. There it is. All right. So, so yeah, I'm going to go through the chat here and try to pick up some questions as we go. So like I said, I will answer any questions or respond to any comments you might have to the best of my ability. If I can, I cannot. Maybe we can get back to it at a different point. Obviously, I don't know everything, and not everything is at the front of my mind. And your situation might be very unique, but I do the best I can to answer whatever questions people have. Okay? So a couple other things. Super chats and PayPal tips are welcome. That helps the channel a great deal. You know, a lot of people like me don't do YouTube for the money. I don't do it full time, but any way you can help with a super chat or a tip, I have a PayPal tip jar. If it can get me a cup of coffee, that can keep me working for a few hours, and you would be surprised how much I can get done over a cup of coffee. So a few dollars makes a big difference. So I appreciate that. All right. I also want to keep this up as well. So while this is not the topic of live stream, this is obviously one of the things that we're all immersed in right now. We're just getting bombarded with all the generative AI stuff. It seems like every day there's like some new Hugging Face model that's out. You know, they're adding new features to Bard and like obviously GPT and stuff like that. So one of the things I'd like to talk about during this period of time that we're in is sort of what your experiences have been using some of these tools and what you kind of feel about them, what you've used them for, what do you think their limitations are, and stuff like that. So while it's not an official theme of this live stream, I'm always interested in talking about these things with people because obviously, like I said, this is what I'm doing in pretty much every waking hour I have is learning this stuff. So I like to keep that up on the screen. I like to keep that up in the conversation, all right? All right, so I'm gonna go to the chat here and see what we got. But yeah, post any questions, comments, thoughts you might have about any of this, and we will see where the conversation leads us. So, Silent Cheese, love it, asks, can you make a complete mathematics playlist that are required to go with machine learning and AI? Searching a perfect video or playlist on YouTube really wastes time a lot. By the way, thanks for Stats 101 playlist. Silent Cheese, you are very welcome. I'm glad the Stats 101 playlists have been helpful to you. and we'll keep adding to those over time, as long as it makes sense to keep adding that sort of content. With regard to your first question there, the first topic that you mentioned, a math playlist required for ML and AI. So on the ML question, while I don't have obviously videos specifically directed towards machine learning, so my videos are more about an introductory stats course. So if you're an undergraduate taking stats for the first time, that's kind of what my content is geared towards. However, obviously, there are aspects to just basic statistics that are applicable to machine learning applications. Excuse me. So, of course, the linear regression playlist, the multiple regression playlists, and the logistic regression playlists are a good introduction to machine learning topics. So of course, the linear and multiple regression topics are going to cover like a continuous outcome or target variable, whereas logistic regression will cover a binary outcome or target variable. And that's a good place to start when trying to get some of the machine learning concepts under your belt. Now, when it comes to other type of techniques, again, excuse me, other types of techniques, so if you're talking like SVM or decision trees or whatever else like that, I personally don't have any videos on that, at least yet. However, I do have a plan to do some content around those things. The challenge with those topics is that there's so much content out there already. So StatQuest obviously is the channel that gets mentioned with mine a lot. So StatQuest with Josh is fantastic. It's one of the best channels out there on stats and related concepts. And of course, there are many others that kind of do these sorts of topics. So I only want to do video content because it takes so long to make. These videos take 15, 20, 25 hours to make, from like ideation to publish. Like the whole process can take, dozens of hours. So I want to make sure that I am offering content that is somewhat unique and offers some additional benefit to what's already out there. Because otherwise it's just a waste of time for everybody. So that's my sort of view on that kind of stuff. The AI mathematics, that's obviously a bit more complex. However, like I said, I am interested in maybe doing a video or two on the idea of vector embeddings, and then how we find the most common way, the most common distance in that multidimensional space is cosine similarity. It's very weird to take some natural language, use vector embeddings on it, and then look at the vectors and then do a correlation on those vectors and see, like, literally, like the word cat and dog represented in a vector store, just a long list of numbers, right? But if you do a sort of a cosine similarity on those two things, it's like, 0.95, it's almost 1. So I'm interested in sort of stuff like that in terms of a sort of a practical way of looking at it. But again, there are some videos out there sort of around that. A lot of the AI stuff is really about learning the tools. And there are some great tools out there that make it really easy to implement some of these ideas. So I think the Lang chain, L-A-N-G chain framework is absolutely incredible, and it's only getting better and better. It makes it all so easy to do. So I'd recommend maybe learning that. If you don't have an OpenAI API key or a Hugging Face API key, make sure you get some of those API keys if you want to do some of these tutorials and learn some of this stuff. And you can do like some of the math. You can look at some of the underlying math that's in them. So that's one thing I can recommend. Searching for a perfect video or playlist on YouTube. Well, there is no such thing. There's no real perfect video or playlist. That's kind of the idea, is you find the one that resonates with you, or the person whose style resonates with you, or the video that resonates with you, and then you just stick with that one for as long as it'll take you. There's no perfect, video or playlist out there. So Silent Cheese, just find what works for you. All right? Okay. Let's see here. Loth says, hello. I love the pi symbol. Excellent. It's very, very fitting. Workouts says, hello, sir. Hello, Workouts. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by if you're still in the chat. Soma Shekar, hope I'm saying that correctly. Again, obviously, I'm located in the US, so I don't always pronounce everyone's names properly that I'm not used to seeing all the time. So if I happen to mispronounce your name, I do apologize. I'm not trying to be rude, but everyone deserves to have their name pronounced correctly, so I try. So Soma Shekar says, can you make some videos on using statistical software like Minitab? As far as Minitab goes, probably not, and there's some reasons for that. Obviously, some software like Minitab and stuff and other sort of programs are proprietary, so they are through a license and they are paid, which makes their availability or the way they're used is very niche because of the licensing model and stuff like that. So most of the software usage that I see focuses on tools that are ubiquitous. So Excel, Google Sheets, sort of at that sort of spreadsheet tabular level, And then when you get a bit more advanced, there are free versions or public versions of like a Tableau, or I think there's a free public version of Power BI. I get these things confused sometimes about what versions they have. Obviously, R and Python are open source. There's a great open source visual programming interface called Orange that runs Python underneath, but it's like it's a node-based visual flow. So that's a long way of saying that software that isn't sort of open source, like Minitab or SPSS or Jump, JMP, because there are other open source alternatives out there, it's really hard to justify making content around those pieces of software because one, I don't have them. I'd have to like buy them myself. And two, everyone seems to be moving to these open source tools to use, or tools that they already have on their computer, like almost all of us do. So I will probably be not making any specific tutorials around Minitab or SPSS and stuff like that. Even though in the past, when I had access to Minitab, I did use it from time to time for certain things, but that's no longer the case. So that's kind of my thought on that. Okay. All right. So Loth says, do I need to know in depth about why a particular assumption is taken for a particular algorithm if I want to become a data scientist or a machine learning engineer? So, in my view, I'd have to go back and look at some of the research and some of the conceptual thought around this idea. Model assumptions tend to be more important when doing like basic statistical tests. Okay, so like a hypothesis test, or even like a basic single sample linear regression, or whatever else, right? So the assumptions of those tests tend to be more important to really pay attention to. And again, this is very general, so I'm just speaking in generalities. In machine learning, because it works differently, like the whole idea of how it sort of comes up with a model, so doing cross-validation and like looking at the ROC and looking at all the confusion matrix and stuff like that if you're doing classification, it's a bit different. It's a different mindset, sort of in my view. But I do think that in like machine learning engineering, machine learning applications, that data preparation makes up for those assumptions that you don't focus on as much. So oftentimes it's very important to transform variables if you need to. It's important to scale them, so standardize them, normalize them, or whatever technique you're going to use to put them on the same sort of scale. Obviously, feature engineering and creating models that are as slim and low fat and lean as possible. So figuring out if there are certain variables or features that you would want to exclude, or if there are other features you might want to engineer into place. That is where the real thing, at least in my limited view of machine learning applications like that, is the real focus. Now, I could be completely off, but that's just sort of what I remember really reading and studying and understanding a while back. So I would say in basic statistics, the assumptions are a bit more important than maybe in a machine learning application. But in a machine learning application, what's really important is looking at all your features, scaling them, pruning them, and making it really a sort of a fine oiled machine as possible. Okay. But in either case, knowing, I would say, last thing I'll say about this, Lohith, is that it's good to know the assumptions that go into things regardless, right? So I just think it's a good practice to sort of understand the basic assumptions. Whether a variable has to be normally distributed or something like that should be important to know, right? Okay. Another thing I will add in machine learning applications is making sure that if you have different classes in your outcome variable, that you handle any very highly unbalanced situations with that, okay? Because variances can get very weird. All right. Keep your questions, comments coming. Sean, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. It's been a long time. Hope you're doing very, very well. Hope you are doing well. Good to see you. Like I said, I'm interested in a few things today. Share whatever experiences you have using generative AI, not just ChatGPT, but any other AI tools you might be using. I'm interested in what you've learned and what you have explored, as well. That's not the topic necessarily of this live stream, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. And many of us are thinking about right now. So I'm interested in sort of what you've been working with. Okay. All right. So back to the other question. What I can say is that I mentioned the software program called Orange data mining. So I'm thinking about doing some content around Orange data mining. I've done some preliminary work on that. That's kind of like on my hard drive, sort of sitting there. So I thought about doing it a year or two ago, and then just got off into some tangent doing something else. So I might do some content around the Orange data mining open source software. So look out for that at some point. Obviously, I have been doing content on time series. I plan on continuing that as well, as sort of time allows. So the next thing I have are auto correlation, auto regression, Durbin-Watson for the 1 period lag and stuff like that. I have that sort of ready to go. It's just time, like all of us, just doing the best I can with whatever time I have and having to prioritize projects based off what is available at that moment. So obviously I have more content planned. It's just a matter of when, not if. It's a matter of when. Okay. All right. Let's see whatever questions we got here. I think I have gotten most of the questions. I'll keep looking in the chat. So what I can encourage everyone to do, if you are interested in learning more about these AI sort of tools, is that in the description of this live stream on YouTube, I will put some of the channels that I have found helpful for learning these sort of concepts that I thought are really good. And if I think they are good, then you should know that they're good. Because my bar for quality educational content is very high. So if I recommend them to you and they're in that description, you can be assured that it's good. So I'll put a list of the resources I have been using to learn this type of content in the description after the live stream is over, okay? So make sure you check that out. But I will say, getting an environment, even if you're, look, I'm not a coder. Like I've always said, I'm not a coder by training. I don't really have the demeanor for it. But what I have found is that doing these things is so relatively easy that as long as you can follow basic instructions, you can build some crazy stuff in like 20 lines of code. And that includes the imports. So I would encourage anyone who has just some sort of basic interest in this stuff to really, get comfortable. And I use VS Code, but you can use Anaconda with Notebook, or you can use, whatever type of environment you might want to have, and really just kind of play around with this stuff. It's just amazing. It's really crazy what it can do, and it's only going to get better. The code interpreter that just released is bonkers. If you have not heard about the GPT code interpreter, I think you have to have ChatGPT Plus for that. But try that out. It's bonkers what it can do. It's crazy. You can try that out. Bard just had released a tool where you can also attach like images and stuff to your chat and ask it to do certain things with the images. Crazy. And Claude 2, I don't have access to Claude 2, but hopefully I will at some point. It's supposed to be really good too. I'll just encourage everyone to start learning about this stuff if you're not already, because it is here, it's not going away. And because it's all largely open source and runs in Python, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. I mean, it's just crazy. All right. I think what else we got here. So I'm going to look through the chat, see if we got anything else. If not, we'll end a bit early here in a couple minutes. So if you have any last minute questions or comments, now's the time to do them. I'm not going to just hang around and loiter and waste your time if there's nothing else we want to talk about in this live stream. So while I wait for any last minute comments or questions, just to reiterate a few things. So if you do put something in there, I will answer it. I'm just kind of recapping now before I start to do it later at the end. The next live stream will be on August 19th, so about a month from now. So come with any questions or comments or whatever else you might have for that live stream. Not sure when I'll make new YouTube videos. It just depends on my time and whatever projects I have going on. So I don't quit YouTube, but I do take time to learn stuff on my own and work on outside projects that pay the bills. So just hang around and there'll be some more content eventually. In October, I will be in Switzerland. So if you and anyone else happens to live or work or go to school in Switzerland and whatever else, I'd be happy to meet up or have a coffee or whatever while I'm over there. So that'll be the beginning of October. All right, so Will has a question. Do I need to know all the math behind the assumptions of an algorithm? Sort of the same conditions. Lots of people suggested no. I would say no also, unless your career path is going to take you into like a master's or a PhD program in computer science or data science or whatever program you might, be going into, or if you anticipate that your job will require you to know that mathematics. In general, I say no, because we all only have 24 hours a day. There's only so much time. So all of us have to decide how to utilize that time every day. And it's an economic question. It's cost benefit. It's opportunity cost. So spending time to learn all the math behind it means you're going to give up spending time learning maybe more applications or some of the coding tools or just reading about your field or whatever else. So I tend to be of the mind, unless you're really going to specialize in computer science or some sort of high-level degree in statistics or whatever else, don't get overly bogged down in the mathematics, because that's what computers do for us. If you kind of know how it works, if you kind of understand the general, concept of what's sort of going on, that's, in my view, that's enough. But again, it depends on what you plan on doing with your schooling, what you plan on doing with your career, or what you find intrinsically interesting. If you find the mathematics intrinsically interesting to you, then by all means, get into it because you have the affective enjoyment of learning it. But if it's not really like your thing, like for me, coding is not my thing. I learned the coding as a means to an end to do the tools, to do the things I want to do. But I'm not sitting down and just writing code all day. It's not like my thing. So I will say just focus on the outcome. Put the outcome first. Where do you want to be in your schooling, or where do you want to be in your career, or whatever else, 3-5 years from now? I wouldn't think much beyond that because things change too fast. And then work backwards on the things that will get you there. And then, of course, once you sort of kind of get close to there where you kind of want to be, then you have to reassess again. I'm not sure how old you are or where you are in your schooling and or career, but especially nowadays, you have to reassess everything like every 3 to 5 years, especially in the field that we're talking about. So if you're in data science, statistics, machine learning, AI and stuff, it changes every 3 years might be generous. So you're always going to have to retool, always going to have to evolve and keep learning on this stuff. So I would look at the time horizon as being fairly short to intermediate with this stuff, knowing that in 3 years, if you're lucky, you're probably going to have to go through this metamorphosis again. You got to shed the old skin. You're kind of reborn into a new skin. All the stuff around us evolves even faster. We got to shed that skin, and then on and on and on. So it's up to you. Unless you feel like you really need to learn the mathematics, I would say no, and then focus your time on something a bit more applicable to your career, school, or your personal interest. Okay? Hope that helps. All right, I'm going to grab a drink, see if we have any other questions that pop up while I take a sip of water. Very good. Another tool, I popped in my head while I was having a drink. If you've never heard of it, if you work in Python and you've never heard of this, I would suggest you give this a whirl. And a lot of you may have heard of it, which is fine. And that is a tool called Streamlit. It's called Streamlit. And what this is, it's a very, very simple, not simple in terms of what it can do, but it's very user-friendly. And what it allows you to do is build a web framework, like a web page with elements and all this stuff around your AI or data science projects. And you literally build it in your Python script. You just do an import, Streamlit as ST usually, and then you can do like HTML titles and headers and checkboxes and text fields and widgets and file uploads and all kinds of stuff. So if you work in Python and you've been looking for a way to get your work into like a web, an interactive or really cool looking web interface in a simple way, Streamlit is awesome. I mean, you can actually build a web page using just Streamlit in Python. You don't even have to have any like data or anything in it. You could do like a web page. It is really, really, really cool. So I've been learning about this as well. Okay. But you just literally import it, and then you just type whatever you want. st.header, st.text, st.slider, like it's whatever. It's just really cool. You can build complete dashboards with it. And it's very, very easy to use. And if it's easy to use for me, a lot of you all have more coding experience than me, then it'd be really easy for you. So it definitely gives Streamlit a look if you've never heard of it and you work in Python. It is really, 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 really cool tool. And the way I got to learn about this is because a lot of the tutorials I was learning from with the generative AI stuff, they would take all their generative AI code and then stick it inside of a Streamlit structure and wrapper, and it built a whole damn web page. Like it was just like, boop, done. So if you've never heard of Streamlit and work in Python, give it a look. It is really, really cool. All right. Okay, so I think we're nearing the end here. If I have no other questions, those videos are so helpful. Thank you very much for answering my questions. Keep up the good work. I will definitely do that to the best of my ability as time allows. So you're very welcome. That's why we do it. And of course, the best thing you can do is just share the channel. So if you're in school, share the channel with your classmates or however you communicate with people in school. If you know anyone else that needs help on stats and whatever else that I might be able to help them with, direct them to the channel. That's the best thing that can happen. So, but the pleasure is all mine to do this sort of stuff. All right. Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I will see you again on Saturday, August 19th. That will be our next live stream for August. And we'll pick up here, see what else is new in the world of stats and data science and AI and whatever else. And then we'll go from there. So thank you all for stopping by the live stream today. I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I will see you again very soon. Take care, and bye-bye.